There is no such thing as free HOA software. Now, hear me out. There's software you pay for with the community's money, and then there's software you pay for with something else, something far more expensive. Because if you're not paying for the platform running your HOA or condo association, you have to ask a very uncomfortable question. Who is paying for it? If you're not paying for it, who is? Because somebody's funding it, and when it's not you paying for it, it's usually your residents in a far more nefarious way. Their data, their contact information, their privacy. The platform you brought in to protect your community might be the reason your neighbors are suddenly getting spammed or called by roofing companies and insurance brokers they never signed up for, they never contacted. Here's the thing. Spending nothing on software feels like good stewardship. You're a volunteer board. You're protecting your community's money. It feels right and it feels responsible. I get it. But it might be the most expensive decision in self-management community that you could make. Free isn't a price. It's a business model. And today, we're going to follow the money and show you how. At Solume, we built an all-in-one platform that gives volunteer-run communities everything they need to manage their association. Dues, violations, maintenance, communications, financials, and reserve planning all in one place. Boards like yours, people with real jobs and real lives who are also trying to run a community association without letting things fall apart. My name is Joe Braun. I'm the founder of Solume, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through everything the free condo and HOA software conversation leaves out. We'll look at the hidden costs, the dangerous feature gaps, a real side-by-side comparison of free versus paid tools, how AI is actually changing what self-managed boards can do, and critically, how to make a switch if you've outgrown whatever solution you're currently using. Stick around to the end because I'm also going to say something directly about pricing that almost no other software company will mention. Let's start with what free actually means in software. When a company offers something for free, they are making a strategic business decision, and that decision has funding models behind it. They're making their money somewhere else. For HOA software, that usually looks like one of three things. Advertising inside the platform, data monetization where your residents' contact and maybe even payment information is packaged and sold, or a freemium model so stripped down that it functions more like a base demo than a real tool, and then they charge you all sorts of rates to kind of add the features that you actually need. The advertising model is probably the most visible. You're, running a board meeting, pulling up resident records, and there are banner ads for roofing companies, insurance brokers running alongside your community's private information. And I'm not making this stuff up. That's live features in several free platforms right now. The data model is quieter and more dangerous. But here is where most people make a critical mistake. They assume that because a platform looks professional, it operates transparently. Clean and easy does not mean everything is above the table. This deserves its own section because it's more common than you might realize. Several free HOA platforms have buried in their terms of service the right to share anonymized, or in some cases not so anonymized, resident data with third-party partners. What that looks like in practice is this. A homeowner starts getting emails from a roofing contractor that they never contacted, or insurance solicitors that feel oddly specific to their neighborhood. Residents are getting bombarded with emails and phone calls like it's political season every day of your life. God, could you imagine? Most of us still get freaked out when it's as if your phone is listening to you, right? You ever get that suspicion? It's going to be even more freaky when advertisers start talking about specific situations within your community. As a board, you are a data steward. When a homeowner submits a maintenance request or pays their dues through your platform, they are trusting the association with that information. If your software vendor is monetizing that data, the liability, the reputational and potentially even the legal Those battles, they run directly to you. Those liabilities run directly to you, the board. This is not a fringe concern. This is a documented pattern across consumer-facing software platforms, and HOA tools are not exempt. The question you should be asking any free platform is simple. How do you make money, right? If we're not paying you, how do you monetize this? If the users are not paying for it, how does the company actually survive? But the data privacy issue is actually just the most visible problem. The deeper one is what free software simply cannot do. Everything we've talked about so far is about what free software does to you. Now, I want to show you what it can't do for you. And that's the problem that should actually scare you quite a bit. Free platforms handle the surface layer stuff, right? Announcements, document storage, communications, a dues tracker dressed up as a portal. That's the easy stuff. Almost every software can do that type of stuff. What they almost always never touch is the one thing that actually determines whether your community survives the next decade financially, which is its reserves. They never touch it. Here's the part that no one explains. The danger isn't just that free tools spam you and they monetize your data, it's that they don't have a fully integrated reserve feature. It's that your reserve study, your current fund balance, your monthly contributions, and your projected expenses all live in a completely separate place. Often a PDF in someone's email or a spreadsheet on the treasurer's laptop. Maybe they're just looking at a number in a bank account. It's essentially just a document that nobody really references. 4 disconnected pieces of the same picture that all combined tell you what you need to know. And when they're disconnected, nobody can actually see the whole thing. I've seen this time and time again, and it's a huge problem. That's how a board gets blindsided by a $250,000 roof replacement that was technically sitting in the PDF the entire time. The information existed, it just never lived anywhere that you could actually act on it. Now, layer compliance on top of that. This now is no longer just a nice to have feature, it's the law in many states. In fact, a growing number of states have hard requirements. Some states require that you must conduct reserve studies, then you must update them on schedule, and you must fund reserves at certain levels. And then you use that to inform your budget and you make all of that financial information available to your homeowners. When your software can't track any of that, you're not just disorganized, you're exposed. And in most associations, that liability runs straight to the board members personally. 70% of HOA reserves in this country are underfunded. And that's not just a coincidence. That's what happens when boards make millions of dollar decisions using tools built for task tracking, where the financial picture is scattered across 4 places and it's just not really connected anywhere. The boards that discover this gap unfortunately discover it at the worst possible moment, when the money isn't there and you need it. But knowing the gap exists is only useful if you understand what a real comparison actually looks like. Here's the comparison that almost everyone gets wrong. People think of this choice as either free versus paid. It isn't. There's plenty of paid HOA software out there, and most of it has the exact same problem that the free stuff does. The real choice is between tools that are integrated, that talk to each other, and those that don't. That is where this magic lies. Let me show you what tools that don't talk to each other actually looks like, because most boards are living in it right now and they just don't see it. You might have dues in one app, violations and architectural requests in another, maybe maintenance in a third app. Your financials are in a spreadsheet or maybe QuickBooks. The reserve study is a PDF in someone's email. The homeowner list is in whatever list the secretary set up before she moved away or he moved away. Every one of those might work fine on its own. Maybe they do. That's not the problem. The problem is that none of them know that the other exists. All those tools are disconnected and they don't interact with each other. And that is what causes the system to fall apart, the entire system, because they don't interact. So a homeowner falls behind on dues and your violation system has no idea. You approve a big vendor expense and your reserve forecast doesn't move. A maintenance issue turns into a major repair and nothing ties it back to your budget, which means you are the thing connecting all of it. You, the volunteer with a full-time job holding 6 systems together in your head at 10 o'clock at night, just trying to make it work and keep it from falling apart, hoping that you didn't miss anything. That is not a software setup. That is a part-time job that nobody is paying you for. An integrated platform does the opposite, and that's the whole reason we built Solume. One system, right? Dues, violations, maintenance, communication, compliance, financials, all of your reserve study data, all connected, among other things. Change something in one place and it updates everywhere that matters. Approve a vendor expense and your reserve position adjusts on its own. Log a maintenance request and it already ties back to the budget. Nothing sits in a silo because there are no silos. So here's the part that I really want to stick. You are going to pay for those gaps one way or another. You're either going to pay a management company 12 to 20% of your dues every year to be the glue, or you're going to pay with your own nights and weekends trying to hold it together yourself, or maybe you'll pay with a special assessment that no one saw coming, or you go free and you pay by handing your neighbor's data to a platform that spams them like it's an AOL inbox in 2003. Every one of those is a bill. Yes, an integrated platform costs money too, but it's the one where you actually know what you are paying and the only one that isn't quietly costing you more than it saves you. Let's talk about AI honestly for a minute because I know that that's kind of the scary part. This is the part of the conversation that was not even possible to have 2 years ago, and it is probably the most significant shift happening in community association management right now. Now, if you're someone who believes that technology is the curse upon humanity across the world and AI is designed to turn our whole society into technocracy, then maybe skip this section. But AI is changing the world whether we like it or not. You can be excited about it, you can be nervous about it, doesn't matter. It's here and it's not slowing down. But hear me on this. I'm just as nervous and excited about it as the next person is. So here's what actually is shifting. For decades, the whole argument for hiring a professional management company was capacity. Your board has jobs. They have got their own families. They have limited hours. The management company brought the infrastructure, accounting, compliance knowledge, vendor relations, admin support, and that infrastructure cost you that 12 to 20% of your dues we talked about every year, forever. So think about what this technology actually makes possible. Imagine never building a meeting agenda by hand again. It assembles itself from your open action items and your maintenance or architectural requests or homeowner violations, budgets, or upcoming reserve study needs. Imagine maintenance requests that triage and then route themselves so nobody's making a judgment call on their own at 10 o'clock at night. Your reserve fund contribution schedule recalculating the second a vendor quote changes. Delinquency notices that just go out at the right intervals without anyone having to remember. That's the direction this is all heading. Some of this is here today and more of it's coming fast. And boards that are paying attention now are the ones who'll never go back to doing it by hand again. 3 years ago, this would have sounded like science fiction. This is the actual architecture of what modern HOA platforms are building in 2026, and Solume is at the epicenter of it all. The self-managed board that uses it well operates with the institutional competency of a managed community at a fraction of the cost. But here's the part that I really want you to hear, because this is where people get nervous. Replacing a management company does not mean replacing them with a robot and wishing you luck, right? That's the fear, and here's a different way that I want you to think about it. With Solume, you get both. You get the automation, the AI doing the heavy, repetitive, soul-draining admin work, and you get real people. You get me. You get people that you can, meet in person if you need to. You get our community advisors, actual humans you can pick up the phone and talk to when you need one. So you're leveraging the technology without getting lost in it. You're not handed a scary good piece of software and left to figure it out on your own. That's the best of both worlds. The efficiency of AI on one side and the judgment and the reassurance and the actual human being on the other side when something doesn't fit into a box or you just have a question. You get to use the most powerful tools available without becoming an IT department to do it. But none of this matters if you never integrate the one tool most boards desperately need. I want to spend a moment on this specifically because it is what Solume's strongest differentiator is, and because no other software video I'm aware of actually explains why it matters. Think about this for a second. A homeowner stands up at the annual meeting and asks something simple. Are we okay? Are our reserves where they need to be? And the board goes quiet because the honest answer is they don't know. They're hoping there's money in the account. It looks like enough, so they assume that they're fine. That moment, that silence or that pause of uncertainty is what this entire section's about. Quick context here if you're newer to this subject. A reserve study is a professional assessment of your community's long-term capital needs. Things that will pay for the roofs, parking lots, elevators, HVACs, pool equipment, all of it. It tells you what's going to wear out, roughly when, and what it's going to cost to replace it. Most states either require one of these or they strongly recommend it. I go deeper on reserve studies in other videos, which I'll link in the description. So I'm not going to explain it in great detail here, but I'll give you enough context so you know what we're talking about. Here's why this matters for the conversation. A reserve study sitting in a PDF is just a snapshot that nobody is acting upon. The magic only happens when that study is connected to your actual numbers, your current balance, your monthly contributions, what's coming up and when. Because the moment those things are all connected, something powerful happens. You can see the future, and more importantly, you can change it while there's still time. This is the only thing in your entire operation that lets you spot a financial disaster years before it lands. You're looking 3 or 4 years out and you can see the exact moment your expenses cross your funding. The year the money starts to run short. But you're seeing it today, which means you still have every option available. A small dues increase or adjustment now, a funding tweak, something measured and painless instead of a $40,000 special assessment that detonates every household the year the roof finally goes out. Free software can't do any of this. The data has nowhere to live, nothing to connect, so the study, it just rots in a folder. And honestly, most paid software can't do it either. They bolt reserves on as an afterthought, if even at all. This is the flag I'll plant in the ground. Solume is the only all-in-one community management platform with reserve study management built in to the core, not as a separate module, not as a partner integration, not as a spreadsheet that you export to. It lives right next to your dues, your budget, your vendors, all of it. So when the numbers changes anywhere, your reserve picture updates in real time. That's the difference between a board that hopes or even buries their head in the sand and a board that knows. And when that homeowner stands up and asks, are we okay? You don't go quiet. You pull it up on the screen and you show them in real time exactly where the community stands. That's what this whole thing is about. Let's be honest about the real reason boards don't switch, from a platform that they're currently on or even leaving management and choosing to self-manage. It usually doesn't come down to price. It's the fear that migrating everything is going to be a nightmare, and that the nightmare is going to land squarely on one person's shoulders, usually the treasurer, and usually they're thinking about this stuff at 10 o'clock at night when you already have a full-time job. So let me take the fear out of this conversation. First, it doesn't fall entirely on your shoulders. That's the whole point. That's exactly why we take on as much of the onboarding work ourselves as we possibly can. You're not handed a login and a good luck. We do the heavy lifting, moving your data over, getting your homeowners loaded, setting up your dues, your communications, your reserve information. The parts that feel intimidating are the parts we handle as best as we can. Second, and I want to be really clear about this, in nearly every case, we don't charge for onboarding. There's no setup fee waiting to ambush you. We're not going to walk you to the edge and then hand you a bill just to get started, right? We want you up and running because a board that's set up correctly is a board that stays. And third, you will always be able to reach a real person on my team. A lot of times it's me, not a chatbot, although we do have chatbots, but you can call us directly, not a ticket that disappears into a void, real people. And I'll be honest with you, I'm often personally involved in some of the onboarding calls and some of the onboarding coordination. That's not a line that we just kind of throw out there. That's actually what takes place. And that's how we run this whole thing. When you're moving with something as important as your community's finances, you should have a human being on the other end who actually knows your name. Most communities are fully up and running in a matter of a few weeks, maybe 6 weeks at most, and the boards that make the move almost always tell us the same thing afterwards. They wish they had done it sooner. The administrative weight comes off immediately. The financial picture gets clearer immediately. So here's the real question. The risk was never in switching. The risk, in my opinion, is in staying on the disconnected tools, staying on the spreadsheet, staying on the free platform, staying with the management company that claims to do it all, but just still causes just different types of chaos, and hoping that nothing breaks before you get around to it. Staying, in my opinion, is really the gamble. Switching is how you stop that process. And before we wrap this up, there's one more thing that I promised I would address. I promised at the start of the video that I'd say something about pricing that most other software companies will not even broach. So here it is. If price is a genuine barrier for your community, if the money is the one thing standing between your board and getting this right, reach out to me directly. I will personally look at your situation and do everything I can to make our pricing work within your budget. And I mean that. We built Solume for communities exactly like yours, volunteer boards doing hard, thankless work with real money on the line. I would much rather find a way to make it work than watch another board stay stuck on tools that are quietly failing them. So don't count yourself out over price before we even have a conversation. Just reach out to me. Now, a question for you. I tend to end these videos with these type of questions, and I really love reading the responses in the comments. What is the single biggest administrative headache your board is dealing with right now? Drop it in the comments. Some of the best topics we've covered in videos come from exactly that question. And if you want to go deeper, watch these videos that I've linked down below. It breaks down the reserve fund mistakes most boards don't catch until it's too late. And it pairs perfectly with everything we covered today. And if this was remotely useful, would you do me a favor and subscribe, like this video? Every week we put out honest, practical HOA content for boards like yours. Straight up educational content to help you and your board and your community succeed. What you actually need to know to run your community well. All right, see you in the next video.